Hello, my name is Hollie May. I am a singer, songwriter, model and lyricist. I started songwriting when I was 12 and I was going through a very hard time, especially in school and college, and I guess I just really got heavily into just writing randomly. And I don't know, I guess I sort of just enjoyed writing, and I thought writing was a lot of fun, and that is how I started. I write all of my songs pretty much like, normally I would go to the pub and I would write a song in there, but the way I write, I sort of capture it and remember it in my head. Like, let's say something just happened, I would just write down like a quick example of what just happened on that night or on that day, and then I would hide it, hide the piece of paper and then get back to it, if that makes sense. And I don't know, I guess I enjoy like witnessing it and seeing it and then analysing it in my head before I write anything down. And I think that's my sort of way of capturing, the little moments before you gradually write the song. But yeah, I love the fact that in my songs and the way I do write, I do capture it very, very quickly on paper or on my phone, and then I get back to it the next day or the next couple of weeks. That's sort of like what I do. So yeah, I find most of my ideas, well, the thing is with me and songwriting, I'm always getting inspired by drama, like watching drama, someone else getting in a fight, or you don't get involved in it, but you watch it. And also, I love getting inspired by being in a pub, being in an atmosphere where there's a lot of people and there's a lot of stuff kicking off. So, I mean, for me, I would say I find my ideas probably in public places. Not just that, but like under the bed as well. I think they are my two top places on where I find the majority of my ideas for my songwriting. It's quite wild, really. It's quite wild. Yeah, so definitely. What inspires me to write? I would say, of course, my idol, Jonas Policeman. Every time I hear one of her songs or any kind of album of hers, it always empowers me. I listen to a lot of like 60s soul, soul singers, women who really are straight to the point, a bit like Diana Washington. I love all of that, and Etta Jones and Etta James, that kind of thing, Ronnie Spector. But for me, I get inspired by a lot of things when I write songs. Like, I get inspired by many, many things, not just Joan. I think, for me especially, I love listening to like old music. The older the music, the happier I am, or the more heartfelt the song is, or the more rough the song sounds, whether it's reggae, dub, it could be rock or indie, the roughness of a song. So yeah, I would definitely say Jonas Policeman at the top of the list, and then I would have to say soul music below, so like Diana Washington. And I just love the whole roughness that's on a record. I think it's really, really cool, and that always inspires me. Something that's different, that doesn't sound the same, or someone has released something that nobody has done, and they've done their own thing. I think that's really, really freaking cool, and that inspires me a lot. So, yeah. Into songwriting when I was in the late stages of primary school, coming up to the early days of college. I remember, like, I studied media and photography because I should have done music. But basically, when I was going through a real tough time in education, I just picked up a pen and I just, instead of, you know, painting my way, because that's what I chose to do, I just decided to write as many lyrics as I could in all kinds of books, and just putting all my feelings onto paper without a care, not even thinking about it. And it just sort of grew and developed from there, really. So I guess you could say that I just decided and chose to put all my songs on any kind of piece of paper that I could get possible, really, you know? Well, I like to write about relationships and situations because, to me, it's a positive outlet, and especially for someone like myself who has who's been through a lot of like heaviness in many negative relationships. The situation has always been quite fucked up and not very cool. Can I swear? Not very cool. So, I mean, I love writing about relationships. It's fascinating. You learn about the good side and the bad side, the truth, and then the non-truth, and you realise who's actually real in the situation. I mean, for my first album that I am planning on releasing this year, I'm singing about somebody that I fell in love with very heavily, and it kind of went wrong. But at the same time, I feel like when you write about a relation or a situation, it's really important because, you know, you're not just crying about it or getting over it or healing from it. It's a really heavy process, and to me, it feels quite healthy in order to let go instead of keeping it inside, especially if it's a really messy, you know, harsh relationship. And I guess it all depends on the situation, really, you know. Yeah, it all depends because you don't know where it's going to go. You don't know where or who you're going to turn to next after the relationship. But for me, it's a positive outlet. I enjoy writing about relationships. It's very important to me. And it's a big part of my life to write about relationships and situations. It could be about anything, man, woman, you know, whoever's dating me. I'm pretty open about that. But at the same time, when it comes to writing it down on paper, that's a different story. But it's an outlet. It will always be a huge outlet to me, you know? This is a very funny question. Why do I write about women? Oh my lord. Well, I wrote about women when I think it started, I must have been about 17, late 17. And when I was 17, I was dating a lot of ladies. I was quite young and dumb and not independent. And I write about women because I can connect to women more. And it's got nothing to do with being a feminist or nothing to do with, you know, I'm a woman, I know more than you. To me, it's more about, well, I'm a woman. I enjoy making love to women, I enjoy dating women, and I love writing about women because women can connect to you on many, many levels, so many levels. And even if you're feeling like absolute shit, you can always talk to your female friend and you will feel mega better. But I really enjoy writing about women because women are very interesting creatures. And I guess I've been doing it since the age of 17. Just sort of worked it all out by myself. But that's how it all started. I was about 17. I used to get quite a lot of girls when I wasn't in school or college. I was quite cool, quite quirky, a bit different, stood out from a lot of people. But writing about women in the most artistic way, in a very articulate way, and trying to be different with my lyrics and how I say things. I think that's really good. And I also think it's very important to not always objectify or sexualize a woman. And it doesn't have to be in a music video, but I mean, come on, lyrically, you don't always have to write about a woman's feature in order to get her attention. Sing about the way that she treats you or how you treated her, and then you see the aftermath. I think that's more important, But yeah, I love writing about women. I've been doing it for years. I will not stop. Women are cool though. We do a lot of things. We are cool people. My songwriting is what makes it different. Well, first off, whenever I do write a song, or I'm about to write a song, I normally do have a beer in my hand, or I'm in the pub, and that's how it begins. I think my lyrics are they're very direct. I think that's the word, yeah. My lyrics are very direct when it comes to, songwriting and making it stand out. I like to, with my lyrics, I really like to make it have its own way, and also have its own sort of vulnerability in some places. And the thing is with me, it's not just being direct, but I always listen to the wind. Like, okay, well tonight I'm going to go out and I'm going to listen to music in my ears, but at the same time, I'm going to follow the wind. So I think in a way, it's not just me being very direct and straight to the point in my lyrics that makes it different, but I listen to the earth. I get off by listening to the wind while listening to music, because the wind takes you to different places. And at the same time, when you are being very direct with your lyrics, at least you're being honest and truthful. And I'm the kind of singer that enjoys being very straight to the point. I've got nothing to hide. I've got no drama. I just want to be really direct and say it how it is as much as possible. And just sort of say, okay, well, this is reality. This is what happened. Yeah, so I guess I'm very directive, definitely. Very, very directive. Do you know what I mean? Real directive. And honest and very truthful. Very truthful, for sure. Songwriting is very important to me because it makes me realise a lot about people, a lot about people's behaviours, actions. It's very important to me because, if something horrible happens to you or something really positive and happy has happened to you, it's always good to write it down, because looking back on what you've wrote or how you've wrote something, it's quite an intriguing experience from the way I see it. I think it's really important to capture however you're feeling at the time. You can be as depressed as a bat who can't freaking see anything and still be the loneliest bat in the whole cave. Or you could be the most happiest person and still feel a way. But the minute you put it on paper, I think that says it all, really. It's important to release your feelings and emotions lyrically, and to let it go and to move on forward and to not hold on to many things that are in the past, whether it's good or bad or sad. But to me, it is important to write down lyrics, because you learn as a person and you grow, and you do realise a lot about what you've been through, especially when you look back on your old songs or your new songs, or whatever you are releasing or doing. I think it is important. It's good for you emotionally, and it's very therapeutic. And I think a lot more people should do it. It doesn't matter, even if your lyrics are not 100% like up here, you know, it's still good to let yourself know that, okay, well, I wrote that now. I'm now going to move on to something completely different. But at least you can look back on that piece of paper or your lyrics that you just wrote, and you feel better about yourself instead of holding it in. And there's also another good thing as well about songwriting that does make it important. Always speak to people. Please speak to people if you feel like shit, because it's so good. I don't know why I keep looking outside my garden. But please, yeah. It's important to me because I love it and it's my outlet. And I do it because it's the only way I can freaking, you know, get my head around what I can't acknowledge or what I struggle to process in my head at the time, whether it's positive or negative. But songwriting is incredibly important to me. It makes me feel a lot better, especially if I'm sad and especially if I'm happy. So it's very important, and it should be important to you as well. It should be extremely important to you. Songwriting, definitely. So, the first artist and musician who inspired me to write lyrics, firstly, it would have to be my dad, because my dad he's always been in the local music scene. He started off in a rock band back in the 80s, like new wave underground rock. And I remember my dad when I was very young, and he said to me, "You need to write lyrics. Let's see if you can do it." And I kind of just did it and really got heavily into it as I got older. So I would have to say my dad firstly, for sure, because my dad helps me produce a lot of my songs. My second artist and musician would have to be Jonah's Policewoman, because her lyrics and her craft is just... I'm not going to be a diva, but like Jonah's Policewoman's lyrics and her craft. I remember the first time I ever listened to Real Life, the whole entire album. Bearing in mind, I was 12 at this point, okay? I was only 12, okay? And that whole album is about life, okay? It's all about the good, bad, the sad, you know, conversation to everything and anything. And I preach Jonah's Policewoman's lyrics. I really, really do. And I love her craft. So yeah, it would have to be Jonah's Policewoman, 100%. The third person would have to be the band No Doubt, because I grew up listening to them. And they're quite scatty, you know, dubby and reggae-ish kind of thing. And I think that's really cool and quirky. And they're very different. Everything about No Doubt / Gwen Stefani is very, very different. And I love that. Who else? Ronnie Spector. Ronnie Spector, definitely. Ronnie Spector / from the Ronettes. I love Ronnie Spector. I think she is a darling. Her lyric work is just out of this world. She's very heartfelt, and I love that. I love singers and artists who are very heartfelt when it comes to writing down how they feel. You know, there's that song, what is it? How does it feel when you know? I love that one, How Does It Feel? And my favourite, like, Ronette song at the moment has to be, oh, 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 I want a boy, oh, 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 I want a boy. I love that song. I love that song. And also the other track that Ronnie Spector did. Oh, what was it? So young, can't marry. track. And I also love Baby I Love You. Oh, yeah, I love that. I love Ronnie Spector. I think she's amazing, and I feel like nobody gives her enough credit. Same with Joan. Ronnie Spector and Joan, they don't get enough credit, okay? But I love that. I love the whole vocal thing from Joan and the lyrics, you know, starting all the way, and then you've got Ronnie Spector going, oh, oh, oh. Yeah. So, yeah, I think they are all my musicians that really, really boost my guts when I really need to write something down. My inspiration for my lyrics. I listen to a lot of Grace Jones when I'm drunk. And I also listen to a lot of Amy Winehouse sometimes when I'm drunk. LaRue. I don't know, the thing is with me, when I'm drunk, I'm really scatty. Like, I get so scatty. Like, I just don't care. And I think, you know, inspirational wise, I enjoy having a bit of a drink here and there, and I get high every now and again. I'm only 25. It's a terrible excuse, isn't it? Yeah, I like a lot of Grace Jones, and the thing is with me, I love to find anything different and unusual. The more different it is, the more I'm going to be attracted to it. I don't know, for me, I love travelling. I love going to London and Camden, especially not just to shop, but to browse around. I find a lot of inspiration in Camden and other places in London. Especially in my town as well, Northampton, I tend to just browse a lot of record shops and look at all the unusual old vinyl records. That gives me a lot of inspiration. Can I say making love? Does that count? Does that count? Making love? Is that a good enough? Well, to me it is. I love making love. I said it. I can't go back. That gives me a lot of inspiration because I think it's just the intimacy and friendships as well. Like if you've got a really positive friendship, that's really cool. That gives me a lot of inspiration. And I don't know, antique shops, sometimes going to the club, but more about going to the pub, because when you go to a pub, there's always drama. And to me, watching drama and people fighting, I know it's not a good thing to promote or say, but I get off by watching it and not getting involved in it. But that gives me inspiration, especially when someone's fighting and they don't get what they want. That really, really does boost my kick. I don't know. There's a lot of things that give me inspiration, you know. There's a lot of things. Just mostly things that stand out that are completely different and unusual stuff, you know, like the vintage stuff and, you know, shops, people fighting. My friends, when they lose their shit, a lot of my friends lose their shit. Some of them, but that inspires me. I don't know. Yeah, I would say I get inspired by a lot of different things. The thing is with me, I like to take my time when I write my songs, and I really like to be patient, let it come to me, like let it flow to me. I guess, you know, I look back on some of my songs and I think, what the hell was that? And then other days, you know, I'll look back on one of my songs and I'll be like, yeah, you know what, that's cool. That's cool. But if it's like an emotional song, it takes me a long time to sort of analyze and process in my mind that, okay, I can be proud of that. Because, you know, in reality, it is very, very hard for anybody to write a song that they are happy with. You know, looking back on my EP songs, you know, I'm proud of it as a whole because I've got it out my system and I feel a lot better. But at the time when I was writing it, I guess maybe I didn't realise that I should have been happy about it when I finished cleaning it up and reading it back. For sure. But for me, I don't know. I'm like a slow wave, you know. I just sort of, well, if something's happened and I need to write it down, it takes me a long time to sort of analyse in my head. Holy crap! I just wrote that. You know, deep breath. Or sometimes I look back on my lyrics and I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is. But I guess it's all just a process at the end of the day when it comes to songwriting and when you are happy with a finished song. Because songwriting is such a challenge. You know, you can be like the world's most talentedest rapper, but your songs are never, I don't know, where you want it to be. It's all about how you want to write the song and where do you want the song to go, and if you're happy with what you've just wrote. Songwriting will always be a challenge. It will always be a challenge for sure, and it doesn't matter how deep the situation is or how happy the situation is or how crazy the relationship could be. So it is what it is. Songwriting is a very difficult thing to do, and as an artist and as a singer myself, you know, I've come to terms where I've been in many messy situations, but I look back on a positive, you know, I look back on some of it, even if it's a sad song, and I'll be like, okay, well, at least it's out my system, and I can have a good day now that this is out and gone. But yeah, there are songs where I'm very happy about. I just think, you know, for my EP, it hits different. It hits very, very different, you know. The best time to write a song. The best time for me to write a song would either be in a pub or after a long, heavy night out with my friends, or, you know, with whoever I'm dating, or I don't know. I think I write the best songs when I'm in a pub. When I'm in a pub, for sure, because, you know, there's so much going on around you. And I remember when I first started writing on my, you know, the EP that I plan on releasing this year, because I wrote that in a pub. I wrote that in the Pomfret Arms in my town. It's a pretty little pub. It's full of hippies. People who go on boats, and there's a lot of crazy people in there. You know, there's always different people in there. I go in there every so often. But when I wrote my first album, which I am soon to be releasing this year, I wrote the majority of the songs on that album are written from that pub. You know, the thing is with me, I walk into the pub, I say hello, I say how are you, I get my drink, and then after about 3 drinks later, you are bound to see me with a pen and paper in my hand. You're bound to see it. Either that, or if I don't have, you know, a pen or paper, I will probably put it on my phone, in my notes. And I've been doing this process for many, many years, And also, sometimes if I'm not out in the pub, I do write my songs at home. I sort of go in and out with phases where I'll write a song where I'm listening to music, and other times, sometimes as well, I've noticed this, the best songs I do write is when I'm not listening to anything, when everything is completely on mute. But my bestest, like the top of the list, is probably when I'm in a pub and there's a lot of stuff going on. Because I love watching people engage. I love watching people, oh, well, today I went to the shop and I bought this. And then you got someone in the far freaking corner and they're like, oh, I hate that person. That person is an idiot. And then if you look over there in the far corner of the pub, someone's like, yeah, well, I'm so happy. And I love that. I love that. I know it sounds really, really cheesy and a bit kind of like really English, but I think it's because people are people, and a conversation can be anything. You know, a conversation can be anything you want it to be. And it's funny how when you go into any kind of pub or music venue, or you go into a theatre, and there's always someone, for me especially as a singer and a songwriter, when there's something that's not right or something that's kind of like not adding up, or there's drama or someone's getting kicked out, you will see me listening in. Yeah, I listen, but I do not get involved. But that kind of, you know, I get inspired by that a lot. And, you know, I'll walk home a bit tipsy. Or if I'm not tipsy, I will just walk home listening to Joan on my way back home, or Ronnie Spector, or anybody. And I will just reminisce in my head what just happened. Instead of analysing what just happened, I reminisce it. And I soak it up in my head like a sponge, because I get off from drama. But I don't get involved in it, obviously. But in the pub, I get inspired by a lot of people who are just going about their day and their evening. And, you know, when something's about to kick off, I just I put my phone down, I put my phone in my pocket or my jacket or whatever. And I sip on my drink and I just sit there and I just listen in. And that gives me a lot of inspiration. Do I read any poetry books? Well, I'm a bit of a geek. I love reading biography books. I love reading books that are about artists and musicians, and it's all about their life and how they got to A to B. I think that's really cool. I love reading, just anything to do with biography when it comes to music. So, for an example, a Jeff Berkeley book, or a book about Led Zeppelin, and there's a biography book. I'm bound to read it. I very rarely, do I read poetry? I mean, the last time I read poetry, I was on Instagram, and I just searched dark poetry. And there was only 6% of it. I'm not really massive into poetry. I do find it interesting, you know, because you write in a certain way compared to when you're reading something. But for me, I'm more of a book person. I prefer to read about someone's life and how they got to A to B, and how they got to where they wanted to be in their life. That really interests me a lot. But poetry, I don't mind it. I guess I'm just not really big on poetry. I'm not saying it's not my thing. I guess I just don't look into it. Or maybe in my head, I don't get off on it. you know, because some people do read stuff and they get off on it completely, and it's like, wow, my mind is blown. But I do really like, I enjoy poetry hip hop. You know, poetry hip hop? I like that. I like poetry hip hop, where, like, you know, they're rapping about their little poem, but they make it quirky and they make it unique and different, and then they've got like their own little style going on. I think that's really unique and different, and that sets me off. I find that really interesting. But when it comes to reading poetry, like on poetry night, you know, someone's standing there and they're reading it to you, no. I don't think that works for me. But if Patti Smith does it, yeah. But not just because it's Patti Smith, but I think it's because the way Patti Smith does her poetry craft, you know, her poetry when she's on stage, she does it in such a way, and I love that. But yeah, definitely books and reading for me. I love reading. I love reading anything to do with a biography. I think that's really cool and interesting. I have always been intrigued with soul music, as far as I can remember. Soul music has always meant something to me. You know, there's so much heart and there's so much love, and there's also so much, you know, destructiveness in soul music, which I love. I love that about soul music. How I got into soul? Oh, I think it was probably when I must have been about. I think I must have been about maybe late 19. No. Oh, I can't remember my exact age, but I was going through a real tough time, and I ended up being in Serenity at one point, and I can't remember my age vaguely, but I was very, very young, and yeah, and I remember coming out of Serenity just listening to Donny Hathaway, Giving Up, and that really just hit me. You know, the scary reality of things. And I feel like Donny Hathaway, as a singer and also as a musician, musically, his music can bring you such happiness, but at the same time it can bring you such sadness. And I remember I was in Serenity, I just came out of Serenity, and I was recovering from a very, very horrible drunken night. This was not one of the nicest times in my life, but I ended up listening and blasting Donny Hathaway in my ears, and I was bursting out of tears outside of Serenity. I was very young at the time, I can't go into depth. I felt like I was on my last leg, and it really sort of broke me in many ways and pieces. But soul music taught me that if you can be real about what is going on, not just with your love life, but with you as a person, and, you know, how can I say this? Oh, how can I say this? You know, I have I've got terrible depression. I'm a huge depressive. And soul music really lifts me up. And it doesn't matter what kind of soul music it could be. It doesn't matter how happy or sad or emotional it could be. but for sure, I feel like, to me, as a singer and a songwriter and a model, and I connect to soul music because my heart can only take so much. But when it comes to acknowledging something that's really scary and sad or emotional or angry that's just happened, you listen to soul music and it lifts you up, man. It picks you up, and it's like, come on, you need to face this. And I love that about soul music, but at the same time, if you're, you can be so happy with soul music, but you can feel so refreshed from a certain situation. But to me, I feel like soul music captures you in many, many kinds of different ways. So yeah, soul music means a lot to me, and it's helped me in many situations. And when I listened to Giving Up by Donny Hathaway when I was very young, early 20s, that was what I turned to. And it made me, it was a learning process. It was a very tough process. Let's try not to cry. But it was a moment for me. It was almost like a wake-up call when I discovered soul music. And, soul music really makes you realize what is real, who's being real with you, and what is your heart telling you, what are your friends telling you. But also, when you're in your own situation, are you going to face up to it? Are you going to admit that it's just happened? Or are you just going to throw it in the back and act like it's not happened, but it's happened? So it's definitely one of those kind of situations for me when it comes to soul music. And soul music has definitely taught me a lot in life, for sure. So, go-to places, well, obviously the pub, sometimes my bedroom. Songwriting is very, very important to me because it makes me focus on the positives instead of the negatives, and especially for someone like myself who has depression and PTSD, I feel like songwriting helps me with a lot of things. It's definitely a positive outlet for me. It's important because I get out what I need to get out of my system, and I make sure that whatever I say or how I say it comes across the way the right way. Songwriting is very, very important to me because it makes me want to escape what just happened, or what's going to happen, or how it happened, or why did it happen. It's important for me to, say to people that this is how I'm feeling, or I don't know how to get this out of my head. I remember when I wrote Pills and Alcohol, and at the time when I was writing that song, I was crying while lighting a cigarette outside the front of my house, absolutely drained and being really sad. And I just couldn't stop crying. And I just remembered, my ex telling me that she loved me. And when I wrote Pills and Alcohol, it took a lot out of me as a whole. But it's such a good way to let go of things. And I feel like when you do write down how you feel, it hits you different, mm, it hits you different in so many ways. And I remember while I was writing Pills and Alcohol, when I was going through the beginning of the process of writing it, I would come home absolutely drunk every day. My head would just, I would feel dazed and lonely and very kind of on my own, and like, you know, smoking a cigarette in tears in public, and you know, thinking about how on earth am I going to let this horrible relationship go. You know, it took a lot out of me when I wrote Pills and Alcohol. It was my way of healing and letting go of somebody who literally tried in every way possible to destroy me. Not just, you know, with heart and soul, but in other ways too. And it's crazy how, like, the beginning of that era, when I did write Pills and Alcohol, I was so in love with this person who was just a force of negativity, who just wanted to do everything they could to just see me maybe 6 feet under, or, you know, lying there with nobody to help me. And looking back on the song Pills and Alcohol, my first ever single that I did write, you know, that song it was a very scary process for me, because one part of me felt like, well, you know, I still love you, I'll always love you, but I know that you're never going to love me back. And at the same time, I was not just holding this person's flame, which I should have never held anyway. I guess I sort of dealt with it for 2 whole years in the wrong way. And I remember after recovery, I was talking to Jonah's policewoman on my phone in hospital, and just sort of telling her, you know, how the hell am I going to get out of this? I'm such a mess. Please give me help. You know, sort me out from this mess. And yeah, you know, and I felt like, you know, when that song was released, I feel a lot better. But at the same time, there's a part in my heart that will always love that person, even though that person is not a good person. But I have accepted it for what it is. But then again, if I didn't meet that person, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So, yeah, I guess it's very important for me. See, the thing is, my best talent, okay, is singing. My best instrument is singing. However, I have a trumpet. His name is Jackson. I bought him a couple of years ago. Basically, I went to France with my parents, and we bumped into this group of traditional Frenchmen that were playing trumpets, and they came up to me, and I said, "Bonjour, ça va bien? You know, how are you?" And they taught me how to blow the trumpet. They were like, "Ole, we teach you how to blow a trumpet. You can sing very good, Ole." And then I remember they taught me how to blow the trumpet. And then after coming back from France on holiday, I found a trumpet in an antique shop. And that was the day where I found Jackson, my trumpet. I blow him every now and again. And yeah, basically the people in France, they were like, "Hollie, you can blow very well. I think when you come back to France, you should bring back your trumpet and blow." So I play trumpet a little bit. I would say I'm not the best person ever, but apparently I can blow very good. So I don't know if I should keep that up or not. But that's one instrument I can play very, very well and very, very good. And the other instrument I can play is, I can play drums really well. I can play drums a little bit. I wouldn't say I'm the best drummer, but I know a little bit. The only thing is, I'd love to practice more. However, I can't because my brother is all the way in London and he plays drums, and yeah. But I would love to learn how to play drums more. I'm quite a good drummer. The last time I did play drums, I was in a music community place. I'm not going to say because the person who runs it isn't a very nice person. I was in like that kind of place, and I played a bit of drums, and someone came up to me and they said, "Oh my God, what was that you were just playing?" And I said, "I don't know, I was just trying to play some Afro beat." And they turned around to me and they said I was really, really good. So I know a little bit of drums. I know a teeny bit of trumpet, you know, just a little bit. But I think my main instrument has to be my lyrics and my vocals, because, you know, I've been singing since I popped out my mum's womb, and I've been writing songs since I left college and school. So I mean, those two things are probably my strongest instruments, if you want to class that as instruments. Maybe not, but yeah, Jackson, my trumpet, he's very special to me, and a lot of people who support me, they know Jackson. We love Jackson. Jackson, my trumpet, he's my favourite little boy. He's such a beautiful boy. And yeah, I blow on him whenever I freaking can, and if anyone's got a drum kit, I like to bang a little bit because I love playing the drums. I love it. Playing the drums is so much fun. So much fun. You can do whatever the hell you want. And then when you blow on the trumpet, you can be as slick back as you want to be, you know? And I think that's quite quirky and cool. So those two are my main instruments for sure. Yeah, definitely. What is it that I love about songwriting? I think it has to be the process of realizing that in your head and in your mind that something's happening. You don't know, you're kind of in the middle of it, but you don't know if it's going to be good or bad or emotional or very, very happy. I think it's just all about the curiosity when you write songs, definitely, because you never know. You know, nobody, when you write a song, you don't know what you're going to write about, and you don't know where you're going to go with it. You don't know how you're going to sort of like start a song in any words, you know, and how you want to project the song. For me, for sure, I always put down how I feel at the time first before I actually get into the song and clean up the song and then turn around and say I want to record it. So, you know, I like to capture it roughly before I actually clean up the song and start actually taking it seriously before recording it. So I capture how I feel, what's going on, put the situation on paper, and then I kind of give it like 2 or 3 days, maybe, in a way, before I'm ready to, you know, a couple of days or a couple of weeks. So after I've just wrote down how I felt at that time, I give it a few weeks of like not thinking about it. Because the best way to get on with a song when you're actually writing a song or you're getting into that process again is to always write it down for me and just not think about it for quite a while, for sure. Because if you think about the song for too long or too much, you know, it kind of loses the life that's in the song of what's happening and how it begun and what started it all off. So I really enjoy writing it down and then sort of just taking a huge step back of not thinking about it at all. Not thinking about it. Because sometimes the best ways to let go of something or to move on forward from something or to accept you're in love or to accept the fact that you're happy is to give it that time, give it that space, so that once you've done it, your head can breathe from what you've just put on paper. Because you know, nobody knows what is going on in your head half the time, and nobody knows how you're really feeling unless you're actually talking to someone about it and it's getting on your nerves, or you're just really happy or sad about anything that you're talking about to someone. But for me especially, I really like to give it that space and make sure that I take my time with my songwriting, because I've learned that if you rush your songwriting and if you sort of like, if you focus too much on it, it's not good for you. It's a bit like, how can I say this? It's a bit like, you know, when you're a painter, if you're a painter or you're a fashion designer, you know, because that stuff's kind of really creative, isn't it? Okay, so you've been sewing for 7 hours, or you've been painting for 13 hours, okay, or 10 hours. You've done the majority of that work. Now you need to sort of sit back and think about, okay, well, I've done the foundation. Now I need to think about what could I do to add more to this foundation, in other words, cake. But that's what I do. That's kind of like my process. I write down what's just happened on paper or on my phone in my notes. And then I sort of just let it rest, let it sit for a couple of weeks. Find some inspiration, read a book sometimes here and there, listen to new music. Get drunk. Get drunk is always good, but it messes with you. But it's a good way to escape it. Yeah, I think it's all about patience and really taking your time and trying to not, like, you know, let the song outdo you or overpower you after you've got it out of your system and out of your head and out of your heart. And I think that's a really good idea, to let the song rest after you've just wrote the song. Any tips on songwriting? Always listen to your instinct. That's the first one. Oh, this is difficult. This is very difficult. Always, you know, capture it while you are in that moment. I think it's always important to, if something has just happened, write it down while you're in that moment. Sing it out if you have to. That's always a good way of letting, you know, I do it when I'm drunk, if I'm in the pub, and, you know, I'll write it down as well. But there's been times where I'll go up to my friend and I'll be like, yeah, I hope feel like this. And they turn around and they're like, whoa, what was that? That was so cool. That singing is also a good way of letting out your your songwriting. I've done that so many times. Oh God, singing to someone hopelessly when you're absolutely hammered before you put it on your phone or paper. What are other ways? Play an instrument. If you can play an instrument and if you can play it well, you don't always need sheet paper. Like, if you know what you're doing, that's great. I think, people do different things, don't they, to get their song started. I guess for me, I just sort of really enjoy writing it down on paper, having a drink,